In this video, I'm going to show you how to turn any old t-shirt into a bag. Really easy to sew for absolutely anybody. And at the end, I'm going to show you an alternative t-shirt bag. Very similar, but a completely different t-shirt. So what you're going to do is take your t-shirt and fold it in half. So you're folding it in half vertically so that your sleeves line up. Doesn't matter if they're long sleeves or short sleeves because we're going to cut them off. So just take a little bit of time and line them up, preferably more time than me, because you'll see in a moment what happens if you don't. It's just a little bit of extra work, so don't worry. So just take your scissors and cut those sleeves off. So you're cutting the seam off as well as the actual sleeve. And then you can just check those edges. And what you might find is you've left a bit of the seam on. Don't worry. Just cut it off and make sure you've got those nice smooth edges. You see I've got another one there, quite a bit of seam. This t-shirt's been well worn and well stretched, so this is what happens, so don't worry about it. And then you want it back folded up exactly how it was, so we've still got it folded in half, and we're going to deal with the neckline. So I recommend that you just cut the neckline off. I will cut mine quite a lot lower because I know I want the big hole in the middle. But if you just cut the neckline off and check whether the hole in the middle of the bag's big enough for you or not, and then cut it bigger if you want to, you'll find that's a good idea. So just make sure that you've got as many creases as possible out and your t-shirts line as flat as possible. Otherwise, you can get some little rough pointy bits. If you do, just smooth them off like that. Oh, we've got another one at the bottom. So then you've got the top of your bag. So you've got the opening in the middle and you've got your straps. So all you need to do is make the bottom of the bag. Now, it's a very simple way of doing this, but we're going to do that and then make the bag better. So turn it inside out, line up those hems at the bottom, and then we need to sew along. So I recommend sticking a few pins in or clipping them together, whichever you do, just to hold those hems together. Now, if you're enjoying this video, can you give me a thumbs up so it spreads to more people? We can reduce the amount going to waste and make more of these t-shirt bags for people. And we're going to sew along that bottom. Now, you could do it by hand or you can nip it to the machine, but just sew all the way along. And then once it's sewn, we're going to make a nice boxy bottom on this bag. So go to one side seam and open the t-shirt up so that you can line up the seam you've just sewn with the side seam. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm getting that point. So I'm opening up the seam I've just done so it's not too bulky. Now, if like me, you've got the old tag that was in the t-shirt, the old label, and it's in your way, just cut it off. If it's further up the t-shirt and it's not in your way, you can ignore it. But if it's just sitting there being in the way, just cut it off. So what we want to do is make sure our seams are lined up properly, one on top of the other. And the easiest way of doing that is to get a pin and push it through the seam that you've just made, and it should pop out on the seam from the side seam. You can see mine didn't. So then I'm just wiggling and adjusting. So once your pin is going into one seam and out of the other, you can use that pin just to secure it. And then how wide you're going to make your boxy bottom is up to you. Now, I'm going to measure 2 inches from the point, and that gives you quite a wide boxy bottom. You could do 1 inch, you could do up to 3 inches, I suppose, but that'd give you a very wide bottom. But if you know what's going in your bag, that might be appropriate. So mine's going to be 2 inches. And just pin across so you know where to sew. And then obviously, we're going to do the same at the other side. So once you've got one pinned at the distance you want from the point, you're going to swap to the other side seam. So once again, open up the t-shirt, open up that seam that you sewed so that it's not too bulky. Make sure they're lined up properly and then pin your distance down. So that's for me 2 inches. And then either hand sew or go over to the machine and sew along those seams that you've just pinned. And then you'll have a decision to make. You can either leave those points on, which I'm honest, I do. They make a nice little bottom in the bag. Or you can cut them off if you prefer and just leave a good seam allowance. Then turn your t-shirt bag inside out, or the correct way out, I suppose I should say. And then I'm just going to show you what effect that has doing that little boxy bottom. You get that box so that it's a bit more practical for use. So I said earlier on that I'd show you another bag I'd made, and it's just a different design because it's a nice stripy t-shirt, and it just shows you can get quite a different effect from exactly the same job. So enjoy sewing your t-shirt bag,